How's it going, guys? Welcome back. It has been a while since I've done much Zwift racing, but welcome back to another Zwift race, or a bunch of them, actually. So a whole bunch has changed. Firstly, the new display. So, I think I need to update my template because the new display looks great. It's like a legit, looks like a legit display now for Zwift. I just need to, the blue little frame around me doesn't really match. So got to figure out how to do that. The mini map up in the upper right is still completely useless. But I have seen pictures, and actually today, it's a couple days after the last race, but I did see the update for Zwift. I have seen, the new mini map changes, and they look much better. So I'm anxious to see that in an actual race because it's still useless as it is in this clip. So, but the biggest change for Zwift racing at the moment is the new Zwift Racing Score. And this has replaced the old categories, so the A, B, C, D, E categories, which had been around for years and years, and it's a big switch. I didn't really know what to expect. So while I chat and go through some of my thoughts and description of what it actually is, I'm gonna have 3 recent races just sort of playing in the background, and these are Zwift Racing Score races. So we will see how that affects where I'm at for my racing. So all right, so what is it? It is basically a score or a number from 0 to 1,000 that ranks your racing ability, I guess you'd call it. So as you complete races, your score will update based on a few things. So the first thing is where you placed. So did you get on the podium? Were you last place? Did you kind of finish mid pack? And then it's also based on who you are racing against. So what were your opponent's racing scores? And in theory, this makes absolute sense. If you win a race against a strong field, your score is going to go up much more than if you won a race against a really weak field. It makes a lot of sense. Your score also will change if you set new power numbers. I think initially it's just 30-second and 10-minute power numbers for your profile. But I think that they were talking about that, possibly changing and adding other time periods in there. So we'll see how that changes. And then, along the same lines, your score can also decrease if you don't do well in a race. And I think there's a time decay as well. So if you haven't raced in a while, your score is going to start to go down. So kind of an incentive to race, but also, if your fitness is going down and you haven't raced in a while, your score is going to, start to decrease a little bit. And people have mixed reactions to this new score, I think. But in my opinion, I think it's that the mixed reactions, the bad reactions, are probably due to the initial score that you're assigned, and so these are based on your best, again, the best 30-second and 10-minute power efforts, but only for the past 90 days that you've recorded in Zwift. So if you haven't done many events over the past 90 days or the past 3 months, like me, it's the summer now, so I haven't been on Zwift very much, then my initial score is probably going to be skewed a little bit. But I think that'll sort itself out pretty quickly as you race more and as you get more results. If your score is abnormally high, maybe you might get smashed for a few races, but and then vice versa. If your score is really low, you might dominate a couple of races, but it should adjust pretty quickly, I would think. So, within 4, 5, 6 races, like you'll probably be in the correct category for you, or not category. I shouldn't say category anymore. The bracket, racing score bracket, or I don't even know what they call them, but racing score bracket is probably what I'm going with. So, so what do I think about it after doing it for a few races? So I actually really like the new racing score, and I think it will probably just get better over time. So there's a couple of reasons that I like it. So I think it's harder to sandbag races, whereas in the past someone could stay in a lower category, so stay in like say a C category and win race after race, and wasn't forced to upgrade as long as their like power FTP wasn't recalculated. So if they didn't take FTP tests or weren't recalculating that power, then they weren't forced to upgrade, so they could just win over and over again, which was a bit disheartening for somebody like me who was in the C category and I might have won one race, but like really didn't win any races and was forced to upgrade just based on my power numbers. So yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. But with the racing score, so that same rider who would be winning race after race in one category is going to get podium bonus points for winning those races, and eventually they're just going to be forced up to the next bracket for their racing score. So I think that's a absolute fantastic idea. So yeah, it's not really based on your power numbers or anything for the race. So like me, who's on the lighter side, I put out fairly decent watts per kilo type numbers, but I don't really have that like raw power numbers to win a sprint or anything like that. So I was getting absolutely smashed in like the B category. So maybe be a little bit more evenly matched in some sort of racing score bracket. So I really like that part of it. I also kind of think this is Zwift's way to make the platform or the game a little bit more like in the esports world, sort of like virtual racing esports aspect of it, which I think is good for like the sport in general. It'll probably make it appeal to more people, maybe a slightly bigger audience, maybe some younger crowd. So with a racing score, you're going to get like that immediate feedback or that immediate update to your score after each race, because you can see if it's gone up or down, and that could give you that sort of instant gratification. So like even if you didn't win, maybe you still boosted your score a bit, which is exciting. If you look at those numbers and things, you can also take a look at your opponents and like scope out other racers to see what their scores are, and like, are you beating them? They have a higher score, but you beat them anyway. And like, so I've played chess for quite a long time now, so this is very similar to the ELO ratings in chess, and I know that sort of draw and that like appeal of like having your rating and seeing it change over time. So you could see like when you're on a hot streak, or if you've gone cold. So it's a similar sort of idea, and I like that. And then just like chess, it's also potentially going to allow for like a global Zwift racing leaderboard, which is, I think anyway, exciting, and that could definitely lead to like spectator friendly type events, where you're watching races unfold live, maybe not competing in them, but watching it happen. And I know they do a little bit of this already. I've seen some live Zwift racing on YouTube and stuff, but it's not quite as spectator friendly as it could be, I think. So, seeing their racing scores, I think would be cool. And knowing, who's top ranked in the world or in the country, that kind of thing, I think would be exciting for the spectators. So, there's a few things I think that they probably do need to look at, and they might do these, but the first thing is like a historical graph or like historical numbers of your racing score. They know that like you can see your current score, but you can't see how it's changed. So at the moment, you have to know what your score is before you race to see how much it's changed after the race. So like you get this little little icon or little arrow in your Zwift profile, and you have to go look for it. It doesn't even like pop up automatically, I don't think. But so you get this little arrow that says like your racing score went up or it went down. But it doesn't tell you how much. It doesn't tell you what it was. It doesn't say like, oh, +4 or -2 or something like that. There's like nothing. It just says like, here's your score. It's 400 and it went up. But like, I don't know how much. So yeah, I'd like a graph to see how it changes. And you can like kind of use that, I think anyway, as like a metric to see how you're improving or not improving. Rather than just looking at like your power numbers, which, for me, I track things like that, but for everybody, that doesn't really work that way. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's a good score to shoot for. Like I like the number 500. Maybe that's a good one. I don't know. So how am I doing with my like 500 goal? Well, like I said, so there's a few races going on in the background while I talk, and I think that my initial score actually wasn't too bad. But for me, I guess I didn't do a lot in the summer, but I have done a number of Zwift races before, so they probably had a relatively accurate like idea of my fitness. But so the first race was a crit race. And I ended up sticking with the pack until the very end on this one. And this was a Zwift Racing Labs one, so I think the field wasn't quite as big. There were about 40 in this bracket. And I remember thinking during the race that it felt like everybody was on like a similar level as me. And there were a couple times where I almost got dropped, and I really had to fight to like stick with the group. So I think that's a pretty good indication that you're probably where you should be. I did put in some nice power numbers. Didn't really have much left for a sprint at the end, so I kind of rolled in just a few seconds after the leaders who sprinted for the end. I ended up 22nd out of 40, and like I said, if you look at my my finishing page, I increased my rating score to 393, but I don't know, because I didn't know this beforehand. I didn't know what it started as, so I don't know what it was to begin with. But I'm guessing it went up because there's that up arrow. I don't really know. But now I do know. So in the second race, it started off pretty mild actually, and this is like just after they implemented the racing score as being like the default, and it started off pretty low key, pretty mild. I even threw a couple little attacks in, thinking that maybe I could get away. I think I covered a couple as well. But unfortunately, I didn't really scope this course out. I really was thinking that it was flat for most of the way, but it was not. So there was a hill at the very end, and I really did not save anything for this hill. So I did get dropped pretty quickly as soon as we hit the hill. But the hill wasn't at the very end, so there's a little downhill. So I did have a little time to recover, and actually had a really nice sprint. I'm actually, I'm proud of this sprint. I hit probably, I think, my best 15-second power. So I hit over 10 watts per kilo for 15 seconds, which I was excited about. I don't know. I don't know if that's good, but I think that might be a PR for me. It was a smaller field, but I finished 11th out of 2021, and it's about a minute back, so I lost about a minute on that hill. And again, so racing score went up arrow to 396, so I increased by 3. I mean, I don't really know what to expect and like how much you go up. I don't know, but I was happy with that. And then last, so the third race, it's probably the best race out of the 3, I would say. But it was a huge race, so it was one of the like monthly Zwift racing series type, and I ended up sticking with everyone. I know this course quite well, actually. This is the RGV, that right, in France, and it's really just the one hill in the middle, the Aqueduct Hill. So I knew that I needed to save something for that. So stuck with everyone over the Aqueduct Hill, which I was excited about. And unfortunately, I just didn't quite have enough for the rest. So it was really just like the little rollers, the up and down little rolly hills at the very end. So like I lost touch just about a mile from the finish, which was, it's a bit of a bummer, but just didn't have anything left. But I did put up some of the best power numbers that I have. So I averaged just about 3.6 watts per kilo for the like 35-ish minutes, which, for me, I think was a PR for that. So I finished 57th out of 109, and it's just about 40-ish seconds back. And again, I mean, they say that I increased my racing score because I had a little up arrow, but it still shows as 396, which is what it was before. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it went up just a fraction of a point. I don't really know. But I mean, in general, I like the idea. I like the racing scores. I'd like to see like the average racing score for all the riders in the race. So like, in your bracket, if it's 350 to 350 to 520 or something like that is the bracket that I'm in at the moment. I'd like to see like what that average is afterwards, just to see like how I stacked up in that group. So I'm at the lower end of that like 350 to 520 bracket at the moment. So if you look at the results, like obviously most of the riders in that group are going to be ahead of me just by like the law of averages. But, it'd be cool to see the average for that. I think Zwift Powered, I would imagine, would add this like Zwift Racing Score and stuff in as we go along. But, that's, remains to be seen. But that, so I mean, that's about it for me, for the new racing scores. I for one am a fan. I know some people don't like them very much, but hopefully that will improve over time. So hopefully like it's something that can be improved on. So anyway, thanks for watching. I mean, it's not too exciting in the racing, in these races, but hopefully it kind of helps you understand the new racing score a little bit. And I mean, let me know what you think about it down in the comments, if you hate it, if you love it. So I'm curious to see what everybody thinks about it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.